All right. Thanks for joining us today, everybody, for this onX Office Hours Masterclass. We'll get going in just a few minutes here. We're going to do some housekeeping while we wait for some more people to roll in and everybody to get set up and situated. Just a couple housekeeping items. Your audio and video are turned off, so you don't have to worry if you've got noise in the background or anything like that. We can't see you, we can't hear you. We do have a Q&A box, should be along the bottom of your screen. That's the best spot. If you have questions for us, please drop them in there. We're going to try to answer as many as we can during this class. If you want to hop in the chat, that's more for just saying, hey, it's John from Alabama or Joe from Nevada or wherever you're from, or just talking amongst other attendees. Not the best place for questions there. They're just a little bit harder for us to keep track of in the chat. So please use that Q&A. We are doing a giveaway towards the end of the class. Since we've got some winter weather rolling in here in Montana this week, we're giving away some of our orange onX Hunt beanies. And since it's rifle season in Montana and a lot of other states are opening up, I figured that was timely. So we'll give away about 10 of those. You do have to be present when that link is sent out to be able to enter, and we'll draw the winners later this afternoon. This class is being recorded, so if you have to drop off early or if you want to go back and re-watch it, it'll be up on the onX Hunt YouTube channel, most likely tomorrow morning sometime. Just kind of depends how fast everything gets downloaded and how fast we can get it over to YouTube and uploaded. And then we will send everybody an email tomorrow with that link as well, in case you can't find it on the YouTube channel there. And I guess with that, introductions are in order. My name's Jack. I'll be kind of taking the helm here, work on the onX Hunt marketing team, and I'm joined by Jeff Armentrout.
I'm Jeff Armentrout. I work on the product team here at onX. I've been here about 3 years now, specifically on the Hunt app. So all of the engineering and development work that goes on internally is part of my responsibility. So all the different feature ideas, how things look, how things work. So looking forward to answering a bunch of questions today.
Awesome. So looks like we've got 7-8 questions in there already. We'll just start rolling through some of them. Tom asked, using the CarPlay app, is it possible to get a 2D view rather than the perspective 3D view? If not, plans to add this feature. Love the ability to use CarPlay. So I believe right now, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, it is kind of preset where it's that perspective kind of 3D-ish view on there. There's not an option to go to 2D currently.
Yep. But appreciate the feedback. We will definitely look at that. Both Apple and Google have a bunch of rules on the different views and things that you can actually do through the in-dash experience, mostly geared around safety, as you might imagine. And so there's things we can and can't do within those experiences, but you will see that. We'll look at that and see if that's actually something that's possible to do. And then Jack, I'll step in because I think this question from Kevin, when will the Android version of onX be available for use? I assume you mean the Android Auto version, because we actually do have and have had for years the Android version of onX Hunt. So the Android Auto version, we are working on that. We have mentioned that a few times in social posts and some other things. As I mentioned, both Google and Apple have rules around how all these experiences are supposed to work. And one of Google's requirements when you run Android Auto is that you, as a navigation app, you must include turn-by-turn directions. So when we do have Android Auto, it is going to have actually more capabilities than the CarPlay version. So we are working on that. It is taking longer than we expected, and we're sorry. I wished we would have had that out now for hunting season, but we are gonna get that out soon, and it is going to have more capabilities than CarPlay. So please be patient a little while longer. I understand how frustrating it is, but we will get that out shortly.
Awesome. Yeah, that was the next one I was going to go to. I've seen
Yep.
a few questions on that already. So
yep.
Question from Tom. He says, noticing you can't scroll to set trail camera direction on the app. I have to edit the cam direction on my desktop when I get home. You should be able to set that on the app. I'll pull it up here on my end here, just so I can demo and show you how that works. Give me 1 second to get that pulled up on my iPad here. We'll kind of go over how to set a trail camera up from the app here. So let me get back into onX. There we are. There's always a little bit of lag going from the iPad to Zoom. So here I am. I'm just going to go into the bottom of my screen there. I'm going to tap on trail cameras. I'm going to tap the button that says add trail camera. And then I'm going to get this screen here where I can set the nickname. I'm just going to leave that as the generic one for right now. I'm going to say this is a Bushnell one. It's a cellular camera. Just going to leave battery count and SD card capacity blank for right now, just to demo how this works. I'm going to tap next. I'm going to say this is in the field, and I see that icon show up there. Then you should be able to tap down at the bottom here where it says camera direction, and then select whatever direction it's facing. So if I just say it's pointing north and apply and hit save, that should be there for you, Tom. If for some reason that's not showing up on your app, first thing I would do is double check that your app is updated to the most current version. If it's not, that might be causing some problems. If you're still not seeing that option available to you, shoot us an email to help@onxmaps.com. That's our customer support email. That's something I should have mentioned earlier. If anybody, you're looking for, customer support contact, help@onxmaps.com is the best email for us. They'll be able to kind of take a look at your account and your device. They just have some tools I don't have access to right now in this office hours, and they'll be able to take a look and get you situated there. But you should be able to set that up on the app like I just did there. So if you're not able to, after checking that, your app's updated and everything, shoot us an email. We'll get it taken care of.
Jack, while you have that pulled up, there's a question in here about from Nate on being able to set waypoints for blinds, tree stands, etc. Now he doesn't see those. I wonder if maybe you can drop a waypoint, just a regular waypoint, and show how you can change the waypoint type.
Sure.
This should function the same, Nate. If this is your question, this should function the same on web and the apps, so you should be able to do the same thing on both. But anyway, yeah, maybe go through that, Jack.
Yeah, so I just went into my tools along the bottom there. I'm going to tap add waypoint. You can see it just drops that red waypoint with the X in there. If I click more, that's where all the different icons show up there. So if I wanted to mark a tree stand, for example, I could go into, we have a ladder stand option. You could pick that one. We've got a saddle option. I think we have a regular, there's a hang on one in there.
Prepped tree exists as well.
Prepped tree. Yep, there's the tree stand one. We've got blind up in here. So all you do is tap the icon you want. While you're in there, you can change the color if you want. You can do, rename the waypoint, do all that stuff, and then hit save. And now you see that it's a blind on there. If you have a bunch of waypoints already set and you want to go back later and change them, all I do is I tap on the waypoint, I tap on edit, then it just brings me right back to that screen, and I can change the icon there to whatever I want.
You also notice, scroll up a little bit, Jack. There's a search when you tap on the waypoint thing there, scroll up just a little. There's a search box that shows up there now. So if you type in, I don't know, type in something UP or stand, like whatever you whatever you start typing, we will search for that particular waypoint type. And so that's a great way to save some time when you're dropping waypoints. You just type a couple characters, it'll pull up what you're looking for. You can tap it real quick and you're off and running. The other thing you'll notice is there's the recently used across the top. And you'll see that now because Jack placed a tree stand before, there's the tree stand most recently used. So if he drops another waypoint now, it'll default to the last recently used item in that list. And so we'll do that also to save you a little bit of time. I think the search function is on iOS now, but not on Android. But that is coming soon. So another way to save a few minutes when you place a waypoint.
And all of that is available on web as well. So if you're doing this on the
Yep.
computer, you can do the same things there.
Yep. Yep. And
Let's see.
Jack, I don't know whether you had another question picked out, but Rex has a question here about his tracks, very jagged looking. Carries his phone in his pocket. Is it losing GPS, causing the connect the dot view? Rex, you didn't specify. I'm gonna guess you're on Android, maybe. And there is a battery setting within the Android device, and Jack, you'll have to help me on this one, that will allow onX to access the GPS in the background while the phone is asleep in your pocket. And if that setting is not set correctly, you will end up with these jagged tracks that skip big sections and then all of a sudden seem to connect. And for the life of me, I can't remember what that setting is on Android.
I believe it's typically in like your battery saver. Androids a lot of times will have a couple different options for like power usage or battery saver mode. If I remember correctly, that was, at least when I was still in customer support, that was the main culprit, was having that on. And when it's backgrounded, it's trying to save battery, so it's not pinging the location as often. That would be the first thing to check there, Rex. Otherwise, again, I don't want to just direct everybody to customer support, but I know they deal with this on a daily basis. We hear from folks where they'll know exactly what setting it is to get that corrected. The other thing to note is sometimes your tracks, after they're saved, they're kind of simplified a little bit on the map. So it's not quite as detailed until you tap on it, and then it kind of shows the more true track to what you walked. That's just kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, that's just kind of an attempt to limit how much data the app has to pull up and kind of simplify things until you really need that specificity on the track.
Yep.
All right. There's a question in here from Jim asking some stuff about his subscription and which credit card his is on. I don't have the ability to pull that up right now, Jim. I don't really want to discuss, credit card information over a public masterclass like this. So again, help@onxmaps.com, or our phone number is 406-540-1600. That's probably the best when it comes to payment stuff. So we can handle that, over the phone would be the best way to if you need to update a credit card or things like that. So give us a call. We'll get you squared away there and let you know when your renewal is and all that information. All right.
There's a question in here about sharing waypoints between onX Off-Road and onX Hunt. Unfortunately, now there's no direct connection between those two. The way that you can do that without having to redo them all is you can export from one of those apps and import to the other, whichever you would consider to be the master account. Just do an export, and then you can import them. I believe the off-road app has an import feature directly in mobile now. So with a GPX file, which is a standard export format, everybody uses that one, Google and us and all kinds of people. You should be able to import that into either of the two apps. So whichever one you're exporting from, import to the other one. You will lose some of your information because the GPX format does not know anything about our like waypoint types, what we just went over on that question previously. It doesn't know our colors, things like that, but you will get all the waypoints in the exact locations. They will just be the standard red X waypoint wherever you import them. So,
Yeah. I noticed two questions in here kind of talking about property boundaries and accuracy and what happens when you see a fence that doesn't align perfectly with what we show on the map. So generally speaking, we find in most areas, our property boundaries are going to get you to within about 5 to 10 feet. We're not survey grade. There's no digital mapping app that can be as accurate as a survey marker and having that, corner plate or post marked on the ground there. More of a reference will get you very close. But if you're walking, you have your onX out and you're within a relatively close distance to a property line on our map, and you come across a fence, common sense dictates, right? We would probably go by that fence or go by no trespassing signs or some sort of delineation there. It's not always available, of course. I know, Jeff, you were out in eastern Montana earlier this year, as was I. Sometimes it's just here's a sea of sagebrush and there's no markings, but there's a bunch of lines. In that case, I err on the side of caution and try to give a wide berth. But that's generally our margin of error. We're usually around 5 to 10 feet. If you do see something that looks odd, that looks like either a fence that is misplaced or it looks like our property lines are off by more than 5 or 10 feet. If that's the case, you can definitely let us know. We have an error reporting function in the app. You can report that to us and say, hey, looks like the lines are off by 50 feet in my area or something. We'll work to get that into the hands of our GIS, our mapping folks, and they'll work with the local county, the local tax assessor's office to work to get that corrected there. But like I said, generally 5 to 10 feet's well within kind of the normal range there.
Yeah, and keep in mind all of these sort of commercial services, no matter who it is, do not have the accuracy that is possible from all of the GPS constellations that are out there. Those are reserved for military applications. And you can go to pretty much any news media outlet today and see how that's being used in the Middle East. They can be extremely precise within inches on some of the things that they're doing, but commercial applications and apps like ours, Google, everybody else, we're restricted to commercial limits from those satellites, and so we're going to get much less accuracy than is possible. And so yeah, it's going to be on the order of multiple feet. Usually it'll depend on tree cover and other sorts of things, but yeah, Jack's spot on that one. So
got more of a hunting specific question here from James. Top layers considerations for e-scouting, late season rifle, bull, elk hunt for meat, not antlers. Colorado third season to be specific. So first thing, start with your private and public boundaries. Have those on for sure. I don't know the exact dates of Colorado third season. I believe that's coming up here within a couple of weeks. I haven't hunted Colorado myself, but I would say if you're just looking for a bull, you might find younger bulls still hanging out with some of the cows, those 2.5, 3.5-year-old bulls. The cows are going to be wherever the best feed is, generally speaking. So if you can find an area where there's still some good grass, depending on what the snow cover is. If there's a lot of snow, that might push them down to lower elevations or some more of those wind-swept slopes. The mature bulls are going to be holed up in sanctuary areas, what you might call like a hellhole. Sometimes they're going to be off on their own, recovering from the rut, and it takes a lot of snow to push the mature bulls down. It can be, up to their bellies, and if it's that nice soft powder, they can still get down to the grass. They're going to stay until it gets too deep, or if there's, some of that freeze thaw and there's ice and stuff that they can't get through. Layers wise, I'm just going to pull it up on my map here, just on the one side. You might look at some of our vegetation layers. If you're hunting an area where there's some agriculture, you might look for some of those hay or alfalfa fields. Whether, even if they're on private, if it borders public land, they might be moving back and forth from bedding to feed. That would be something to take a look at. Colorado's famous for their aspen groves. You might try to pull up our tree species layers, and these are all in map layers under trees, crops, and cover. So you could turn on the tree species and look for where some of those aspens are growing. They might be hanging out in there still. What else am I missing there, Jeff? I'm limited on my experience, especially, having not
Yeah.
hunted Colorado.
A couple of the things that could be useful if you're an elite onX Elite customer, we have available now for that a feature called Recent Imagery, where we update imagery at a lower resolution, but we update that every 2 weeks. And so if you're in an area, especially in Colorado, I know like my son lives in Denver. It was 70 degrees there the other day, yesterday or the day before. And so probably no snow there, but up in some of the higher elevations, obviously you can get snow any time of year. So if you're an elite member, pay attention to the recent imagery. You can get views within the last 2 weeks, and so you can use that shortly before you travel. If you're traveling, to see what sort of snow you might run into or conditions. That tree layer that Jack described, to look for some of the thicker aspen and spruce grows and stuff. I think I read something the other day where a bull elk will lose like 25% of its body weight during the rut, which is insane. So they got 200 pounds of food they got to put in their bodies here before the snow settles in. So they're not going to be too far from shelter and food and water. And those would be the things I think that you're going to want to look for within the layers. There's a layer in there called slope angle. You should probably look at that. You probably want to look for steeper slopes that have shallower benches on them. So look for a slope that's 25 to 35 degrees that has a 15 to 20 degree sort of flat spot in it. You'll be able to see that on the slope angle layer, which will give you some idea of some benches and other sorts of things where you'd find some flatter areas where they're more likely to bed, especially if they're in thick cover. And so you can toggle back and forth between that and the satellite imagery and look for those sorts of benches. What I'll do is, when I have the slope angle layer turned on, I'll use the area shape tool. And when I find what looks like a shallower area on a steeper slope, I'll draw an outline around it. And then when I go back to the satellite imagery, I have a really quick way to reference where I saw that bed. And now I can look at those spots and see and try to pick out some of those thicker areas. So a couple other things that might be tricks for you to try.
Yeah, good luck. And if you have some success, let us know. We always love seeing pictures of customers having success out in the field. David asked, how do you get track up where you were going the same way you're traveling on the screen? So I can demo this real quick here on my iPad. Let me get back to share that screen for you. Get in here. So what David's talking about there is how you can orient the map so that the direction you're facing is up instead of it always being north up. Let me get the map back to my location here and zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to zoom in all the way on my dot here in Missoula. You can see it's just that round blue circle. North is up right now. In the lower right-hand corner, there's a location button. It looks kind of like a crosshair right now, and it's highlighted blue. If I tap that one more time, now it turns to an arrow, and you can see that sight cone coming off of my dot as I move my tablet. you can see that it rotates the map as I rotate the tablet. So that's how you're able to have the direction you're facing be up on the map. So you can see my compass in the upper right-hand corner. I'm facing more or less due west right now with my iPad. And as I move, you can see that compass rotates as well. So that's how you're able to do that. If you want to get out of this mode, I can just tap that location button one more time, and then it goes back to that kind of default north up mode there. So hope that answers your question there, David.
Ron is asking about controlled hunting access program properties in South Dakota.
Yep.
So Ron, if you will go into layers, I don't know, Jack, if you have, yeah, there you go. Click on
Yep.
South Dakota, and you'll see under there, if you scroll down a little bit, controlled hunting access program. So flip that switch on and the walk-ins area, and you should have now on your map highlighted both of those programs that are available for hunters in South Dakota. So hopefully that addresses that. And then Tom, I think we covered your question earlier, and now you're saying your screen won't scroll. I will let me type my email address in the chat here in a second, Tom, and you can shoot me an email with some more details, and I'll see if I can get you helped out.
The first thing
separately.
that comes to mind there, Jeff and Tom, is if you do have your font size increased, that can cause some issues. So that was the first thing that immediately set off alarm bell in my head, Tom, that your screen, if you're not able to scroll down far enough. So double check that. But yeah, otherwise definitely shoot Jeff or shoot CX an email and we'll take a look.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom, maybe check that setting, and then if you still have an issue, throw something here in the Q&A and I'll see it. And then I think I clicked the wrong button a minute ago. I think I have to click type answer. I'll type my email address in there if you're still having an issue, and you can reach out to me separately and I'll get you fixed up. So.
All right. Here's one from Dan. We get this question a lot. Is there a way to actively track your buddies in the app? Not currently. That's a feature that's often talked about. We kind of internally refer to it as a buddy tracker or a party tracker or something like that. Right now, there's not a way to do that. That is something we are looking at maybe in the future. It would be limited to areas where you have service because the phones need to be able to connect to each other, to talk, to be able to show the location. So, it wouldn't work without service to all the devices, but that is something that we have talked about and will continue to talk about and may be able to offer in the future. Looks like there was a couple questions in there about that, actually.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So Steve has a question about landowner information. I think this is sort of reading between the lines. Why is landowner information not updated in his area, which is Arkansas? I assume that's your zip code there. We, along with all the other providers in this space, rely on third-party aggregators to collect property ownership information, and we source that into our app. We pay them for that information. We get some information directly from counties who are connected electronically, and we can pull that information through their computers. I am not sure exactly where that area code would be in Arkansas, but I can make sure that I follow up with our internal team on, is that a county that is included in that program or not, and then I will follow up. So I will go check on that one.
Let's see. There's another question here. We talked about it earlier, but we'll touch on it again. Was hoping to be able to use Android Auto for pheasants this fall. Is there a new timeline for that feature? It won't be released this fall, unfortunately, Josh. Um, Wish it was out. I don't want to set an unrealistic expectation, but it won't be out for this hunting season, unfortunately. Let's see. Can I use all compass features on an offline map when I am not in that area? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking there, John. When you're offline, the app functions very much like it does when you're online. There's a few features like 3D that aren't available offline right now, but the compass features, those all work when you're offline. I guess if you give us a little more context about what you're trying to do there for an offline map area when you're not in that area, I could answer that more specifically. But from what I'm reading here, everything from what I understand of the question, everything you're trying to do should work as far as compass features and waypoints and all that stuff.
David's asking, when I drop a waypoint, its location is random. Is it intended to be in the center of the screen? Can you mark the screen somehow so I know where the waypoint will be dropped? In the past, there was a waypoint edit that allowed you to reposition. It actually is still currently available. So if you edit a waypoint, you still should be able to move it. There's multiple ways to drop waypoints on the map, on mobile especially. So if you're on your mobile device, and you don't say whether you're Android or iOS, but on either
I'll pull it up here,
platform,
Jeff, so we can demo while we're talking.
okay. So on either platform, you can press and hold with your finger on the screen, and it'll drop a waypoint in this at the spot you are pressing and holding. So that's one way to drop a waypoint. Jack demoed this a little bit earlier, but if you tap the tools button, there is a setting under there called Mark My Location. That will drop a waypoint wherever your blue dot is on the screen. So wherever you are, it drops a blue dot at that specific spot. If you click the Add to Waypoint under Tools, it's going to drop a waypoint at the center of your screen. And so under Settings, there's a way, and I turn this on just because I like to have the reference in the center of my screen, but under Settings, you can turn on a crosshairs on the center of your screen. And when you click Add Waypoint, it's going to drop a waypoint. If you should click the Show Crosshairs button right there. So now you're going to see crosshairs in the very center of your screen. If you click Drop a Waypoint, it's going to go wherever those crosshairs are. And so those are the three different ways that you can drop waypoints. There's actually a couple more. If you tap on a property, you can drop a waypoint on a property. But in general, those are the three main ways that customers use to drop points. I don't know, David, and then if you tap on that waypoint, then under the edit button, you should be able to move that waypoint around just by tapping on the screen, and it should move wherever you tap. So hopefully that addresses your question there. If not, hit us up again, and we'll see if we can take another pass at it.
Yeah. In my recommendation there, David, if you're trying to put it on a specific spot, the kind of tap and hold on the map is probably my preferred way for getting it right on a specific spot. So zoom in as far as you can. Let's say I just wanted to mark this, this kind of meadow here or something, and I want to put it on the state side. I'm just going to touch the screen on my iPad, hold my finger, and a waypoint is placed right where I tap. That's the method I like. Everybody's a little different, but for me, that's the fastest way to kind of get one in an area. If I'm standing there and I want to mark the location I'm standing, then I do the Mark My Location. But otherwise, that tap and hold, I think, is one of the best ways to do that. Let's see. Jimmy asked another buddy tracker adjacent question. Buddy tracker not available, but can I communicate my coordinates to my buddy so he can enter into his onX app? You can. You just have to have a way to communicate with your buddy. If you don't have cell service, maybe you need two-way radios or something like that if you're not nearby. But what you can do is, you can put a waypoint at your spot. Let's just pretend it's this one. And then you see once I tap on it, it opens up that query card. I've got the coordinates listed there. I can just tap the copy button, and then I could paste those into a text message if I had, enough service to get a text out. Otherwise, if you had a two-way radio and that's all legal where you're hunting and everything, you could just read them over the radio that way.
Couple questions from, I guess, one from Greg, and I think there was an earlier one around like a map legend. Right now, we don't have that, and I've heard a lot of requests for that. So it's definitely something that we have on our list. So I guess Sid, you asked that back there, and then further down, who was it? James, yeah, thanks for that feedback. It's and then Jim also asked kind of the same thing. So yeah, thank you for those. We are looking at a way to incorporate that. So I appreciate the feedback very much.
And we do have a legend in our online help center. So if you go to our website, or you can access it from the app as well, in the hamburger menu in the top left corner, our customer support team does have like a legend that they've put together. So it's not in the app yet, but like Jeff said, that's something we might be able to do in the future. But for the time being, we do have one on our website that you can access.
Yep. And then David asks about printing. You can print your map from the web now. Unfortunately, I don't think we support the print function from mobile yet. We are looking at the possibility of supporting in the future large format printing. So like you could print out I don't know if any of you are ever in a hunt club or something. Most places will have like a big map of their leased area or wherever they're hunting. We're looking at enabling something like that. But right now, you can print from web. You're just printing on 8.5 by 11. So it's not optimum, but we're gonna look at improving that in the future too. So.
Question from Tony here. Is there a layer for WMAs to show up? We can see the WMA name on Google Maps, but do not see them using onX. So in most states, your WMAs are going to be included in your government lands layer. So you should turn that on. The name might not pop up right on the map, depending on how big the WMA is. You may need to zoom in a little bit before it starts to show. We just always kind of have to, for lack of a better term, scale all the labels on the map so that, you can kind of envision if we showed every label for every parcel, that's going to clutter the map up a bit. So some of them don't show until you zoom in a little bit closer. WMAs are going to be a blue color on your map because they're state owned. So they're like a lightish blue color, a pale blue. And if you tap on the map, it's going to pull up a card that gives you more information about any piece of land, be it private or public. So that would be what I would do. The labeling is going to look different than Google Maps. So like I said, you might have to zoom in or just tap on the map to see those WMAs there. Oh, here's a good question. We get this fairly often. David asked, if I receive coordinates, how do I enter them into onX to show that location? I'm going to pull up my map here. And so you can do this both on mobile and on web. You're going to go into our search function. On web, if you're on your computer, it's in kind of the upper left-hand corner of the map. If your map layers menu is open, you have to close that and it'll show there. Otherwise, let me move this down. So when I'm in the app, in the upper right-hand corner above that little weather symbol is a magnifying glass. That's where you go into search. You want to make sure you have location selected, and that's where you can type in coordinates. I'll just do a random one here. Decimal's the easiest way to do this. So if you can do it all in decimal format, that's our recommendation. Your first coordinate is going to be a positive number between 0 and 90. In North America, you're probably going to be in the 30s or 40s. And then your second coordinate, that's the wrong button, has to be a negative. If you do positive, it's going to put you in the Eastern Hemisphere. So we're in Western Hemisphere, so you got to go, I'm just going to do 100 and hit search. And so when I just typed in 45 degrees north, 100 degrees west, tap on the suggestion there, and it's going to bring me to that location. So that puts us in kind of central, north central South Dakota. If I want to put a waypoint there, I just tap add waypoint, and then there I have it on the spot there.
Yeah, that's even easier, by the way, if you copy and paste, obviously.
Right.
Right. If your buddy sends you some coordinates and you want to get them in your app and you want to find out where that is, just copy and paste into search, hit return. It's gonna pull up that location. You can tap on it, and then from there you can add a waypoint. You can, do a lot of different things from that point. But yeah.
Let's see. We got about 20 minutes left here. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to throw the giveaway link in the chat so that everybody can go get entered for that. Giving away some hats, like I said, some of our orange stocking caps. So the giveaway link's in the chat. That'll be open till about 3 o'clock Mountain Time today. So you got just a little over 2 hours to get entered there. If anybody's watching this video on YouTube after Tuesday, October 24th, the giveaway link is no longer live. But we do these just about every class. So sign up for a future one and get entered to win some cool onX swag.
Todd's asking a question about dealing with the wind as he's navigating into, I guess, a specific spot. I don't know if you're trying to get to a tree stand or whatever, and the wind is at your back. This situation is not a spot and stalk scenario, but more of getting into an area without blowing out animals along the way. So one of the things that you can do for that I've done before is, if you know a specific route that you're going to take into an area, if you drop a waypoint or two, depending upon how long your route is, along where you think that route is. If you pull up waypoint tools, and I don't know whether, Jack, you can pull up your app and show this or not, but if you pull up waypoint tools, there are some wind options under waypoint tools that you can select. And so if you tap under waypoint tools, current wind, what we will do is show on the screen in a little bubble above your waypoint. So if you tapped on that waypoint there, and you see the wind direction waypoint tool, you open that up, you just say show current wind. And when you save that and apply it, you should be online. In that little bubble above the waypoint, this is the danger of live demos, is sometimes it doesn't always do what you expect it to do.
Here's one that I have.
Yeah, so there's what this will look like. So you'll end up with a little bubble above your waypoint that's going to show you the current wind. This is the direction the wind is blowing from. And in this particular example, Jack has set optimum wind, which tells him that the best wind for that specific spot would be from the northwest, northeast. So some sort of north wind is best for getting into that particular spot. And you can drop a couple of those type of waypoints along your route. And then when you get to, your wherever you're parking your truck or whatever you're doing, you can, or before you leave the house, even, you can look at those wind indicators and see what the wind is doing along that route. And that way, say you had a choice between a couple of different stands, you could use those as indicators of which of my areas has the best wind to get into and then to hunt. And so that would be one suggestion of a way to do that.
There's a question in here. I just lost it because I was scrolling through. There it is. Austin asked, when tapping on a property, will there be a feature to just add boundary instead of having to drop waypoints on a property line? Yes, there is currently in there. If I'm understanding the question correctly, I'm just going to we'll just go to this random parcel here. So let's say this is the private parcel where I want to be able to more boldly or accurately see the property line. So if I tap on a private parcel, pulls up the information. If I hit add to folder, and then I add that to a folder. So these are ones I've just made on this test account. You can create a specific one for each property. Like if you have awning property or a lease or an area you have permission, maybe you want to create a folder for each one of those properties if you have multiple or something like that. I'm just going to add it to this test folder right now. And so now that's in that folder, and you can see that property is now highlighted on the map. It's got a darker, bold red line around it. So I hope that's what you were asking about there, Austin. I hope that's satisfactory and something that'll help you out. If not, let us know. We can take another crack at it.
Greg, you had a couple questions about the two-state plan, and I think it expired, and then you purchased two-state again. I'm not sure exactly what will be going on there with your membership. You do mention recent imagery. Recent imagery is available to elite customers right now and not to premium or premium two-state customers. And so perhaps before you actually had the elite membership, and then when you signed up for premium two-state or when that expired, you lost access to recent imagery. I would suspect that's what it is, but if you don't think that that's the case, Jack has mentioned the contact info help at onxmaps.com and our phone number a few times. I would say for those sorts of membership questions, again, we don't have those tools in front of us to check those various things, and so that would be a great reason to contact customer service and get some answers on any sort of membership type question.
Yep. Question from Ron. How do I go about loading maps onto iPhone while I have Wi-Fi to go into the field with no coverage? Great question. I'm going to pull that up so I can demo it here for you again. So what Ron's talking about there are the offline maps that we have within the app for when you don't have service, which is a lot of places that we go hunting, right? So I'm just going to move my map. I'm going to go north of town here. We're just going to go to the Rattlesnake Wilderness. Let's just say that's our hypothetical area we want to hunt. So I get my map in the general area of where I want to go. The lower left-hand corner of my map, I have a button that says Offline Maps. So I'm going to tap that. At the top of that menu, there's an option that says New Map. I'm going to tap that button. And then my screen's going to show me a red box. Whatever's within this red box is what is going to be saved. So that's where I can still move it around. I'm just using my finger on the map right now just to drag the map around like I do normally to get it set to where I want to be. I can then choose my map detail. So what this is doing is you're choosing basically the imagery resolution for the map that you're saving. That's going to change the size of the map. The higher the resolution, the smaller the map, and that is because of the download size. I can go high resolution. It's going to be about a 7-8 mile wide map. My medium resolution, I can even zoom out. So I can zoom in and out on this and make it smaller. Personally, I usually try to maximize my coverage. So I'm going to do this, and it's 26 miles wide. It's going to vary a bit depending on your device and things like that. or I can go low resolution and get a really big map. 90% of the time, I personally use the medium resolution maps because it's a good compromise where I still get pretty good imagery resolution. A lot of times I don't notice that big of a difference between the high detail and the medium detail, and it gives me, a lot more coverage than the high resolution maps do. So let's just say, all right, I got this set. This is the area I'm going to go. I can scroll up. I can pull that menu up. I always recommend naming your maps. Name everything you can, your waypoints, your maps, your tracks, all that, just so that you know what it is when you go back a couple months or a year from now. If it just has the date on it, it probably won't, at least for me. I don't often remember exactly what was happening there. I'm just going to name this a test for right now and hit the save button. Now that's going to start downloading onto my device here. You can see I've got a green box. Once that's downloaded, that will turn a little bit brighter green, like this one that you see just a little bit north of it here. Once you have that saved, you can go out into the field. You'll have all the information for that area. You'll have your layers available. You can mark waypoints. You can see yourself. You can track yourself. You can do most of the things you do online. I mentioned it earlier, things like 3D maps are not available offline just yet. But otherwise, all the other information's available for you there once it's downloaded, and you're good to go. And like you see there, you can save multiple maps. You can, what I'll do sometimes is I will put maps right next to each other and create a grid pattern if I need to save a bigger area. I've honestly done that for a lot of Western Montana with those medium resolution maps and just made like a grid that covers most of the western portion of the state, so that everywhere I go, I've got a good map saved there. And then while we're in here, I might as well touch on it. You see some of these maps say update available. What that means is something has changed in that area. Some data has been updated. Most commonly, it's going to be like your private property information has been updated, stuff like that. To update it, you can just tap the green check mark next to it, and that'll start that download. Not critical to update them all the time. You might notice that there's a new update available almost every day, every week. What I typically do is before I head out, like if I'm going to hunt the weekend, Friday, I'll update my maps and then go confidently out there. I'm not necessarily going every single day to update them. If you forget to update, your map's still going to work. You just might have some data that's a little bit out of date there. Typically, your public lands don't change that often. Even private parcel boundaries don't change that often. It might be a new ownership name or something in that area. It's probably not the most critical thing if you miss an update. It is good to update them every once in a while. Don't go years or necessarily months without updating. But if you just remember to do it right before your hunt, you should be good to go.
Yeah, which kind of gets to Tony's question a little bit further back. So hopefully that addressed part of your question, Tony, but then you have this comment in there about the fact that if an update was available, it decreased the quality of your maps until you're able to download the update. So the quality of the map, if by quality of the map you mean aerial imagery or the topo lines or something like that, that should not be impacted by a map update. Now, if you downloaded that map, I don't know, a year ago, and the area of that map happens to be one of the 16 different states whose aerial imagery we've updated so far this year with imagery that was shot last year, then you may see some differences in aerial imagery if you don't update your map. But in general, the quality of the map should not be updated. As Jack mentioned, usually that's because even if one piece of private property within that large map is updated, which we do regularly, it would show an update. So usually it's stuff like that, and it should not decrease the quality. So if you're seeing that, something else is going on. And again, I would say this will be something help@onxmaps.com or the number that Jack has mentioned a couple times to reach out to our customer service folks who will absolutely be able to take care of you. Um, and then there was another one, Kevin. When I drop a line on my map in order to measure my distance, sometimes it drops somewhere other than where the crosshairs are. So I have to go to the app and back in again. And then the crosshairs drop the point accurately. So I'm not sure by point if you mean line or waypoint, but in general, there's a couple different ways to draw a line. And I guess maybe Jack, this would be maybe a good time to pull the app back up. So if you go into the tools menu, as we've pulled up quite a few times, you'll see the ability to um, under tools to draw a line. And if you pull that up, then you're gonna tap on the screen under line distance. You tap that button. You're gonna tap on the screen. It's gonna start a dot, and then you're gonna tap somewhere else on the screen, and it's gonna draw a line between those 2 points, and then give you the distance between them. And then when you save that line, it's going to give you the total distance of the line. There's a second way that you can also measure the distance between two places on your map, and that would be by holding your fingers on the map, hold 2 fingers down on the map, and the distance between your fingers is going to be displayed in 2 points. And when you lift your fingers up, that line's going to go away. So this is a great way to measure while you're in the field. If you just want to know, hey, I wonder how far it is over there to that road, or up to that ridge, or back to this creek channel I want to get to, wherever it is, just touch 2 fingers on the map, and you'll see a line distance drawn between your 2 fingers. And as soon as you let up, it's going to take that line away. It's going to give you a temporary distance, and so that will be a great way to do it. The line tool doesn't actually use the crosshairs. So that's why I was kind of a little bit confused with your question. But if that doesn't address it, then please either pop another question up here, or you can reach out to help at onX. So.
Couple more questions here. We're kind of coming up on our hour, but we'll try to get to as many as we can. Josh asked, when you save a map for offline use, does it save all layers available or just what you have active during the save? Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, I believe it saves all of the layers that are available for that area. In the past, if you remember years back, if you've been using onX, you had to have the layer turned on for it to be saved. That's no longer the case. If you save a map in Montana, you're going to have all those Montana layers available for you there, whether they were turned on or not.
Correct.
Which is
and
awesome.
Rob, yeah, and Rob, you ask, are Elite tools only available on desktop? Some of them are only available on desktop. So the imagery on demand, where you can specify the center coordinates and shoot your own satellite image, which we will deliver to your map, that is only available on desktop. There are other Elite tools, however, though, the Route Builder tool is either on mobile now or coming, and as is the recent imagery function. And if you are in one of these 14, I think, or maybe 16, we keep expanding this, states where we have leaf off imagery available, you should be able to see that on mobile as well. So hopefully that takes care of your question. And then Paul, you asked right after that, do offline maps save an external memory or SD card? No, right now that is not possible. So
Josh was asking about recent 2-week satellite function for Elite members. So that's what we just kind of touched on. I do just want to demo that again for folks that might not be aware of the recent imagery there. So if you go into your base map, if you're an Elite member, you'll have this option for recent imagery. You can see as I toggle that, my map changes. And this is like we said, updated every 2 weeks. And if I tap in the lower left here, I have these date ranges. I can go back in time Not much change here in Western Montana, but if I go, let me go to Minnesota where we have some more deciduous trees here. So if I'm in August, as I move forward in the fall, you should start to see some of those trees changing color, especially the last couple weeks. You can see it goes from a greener to a brown. This imagery is lower resolution than our standard base map imagery, so it's not meant to necessarily be used standalone. It's meant to be just kind of another piece of the puzzle, another piece of information that you use in conjunction with our standard base map imagery. But I'm going to use this. I'm going to South Dakota this weekend. I'm going to start scouting right now for areas where the crops have been taken out, so that when we're chasing pheasants, we're not just hunting in areas that are full of standing corn, because if you've hunted pheasants around standing corn, it's a lot tougher. If you're in an area where it's been cut, makes things a whole heck of a lot easier. Josh's kind of his question there. Do you have a website or app you would suggest for accurate current snow conditions? I don't personally off the top of my head. I know there are some like avalanche centers will post that data. Jeff, I think the National Weather Service or NOAA, they might have some information on that. I apologize, Josh. I don't have anything off the top of my head that would show, snow depth currently. Certainly the recent imagery, once we get into more snow falling, will show you, kind of the 2 weeks. If you need something more specific than that, you probably want to check with, if you're in the West, like avalanche centers or National Weather Service, folks like that. Rod asks, when will I be able to use my Tacticam cell camera on onX Hunt app? So we're integrated with 3 trail camera brands, Bushnell, Exodus, and Covert. We are looking to add more companies. We'd like to have everybody integrated if we can. I know Tacticam is one of the dominant players, especially when it comes to cell cameras. I don't have any sort of timeline. I don't know that we have any sort of timeline as far as if and when Tacticam will be integrated. We certainly would love to bring them on. So hopefully we're able to do that in the future. Rod, I'm sorry I don't have any more firm answer for you than that.
And then Austin, your question about sending a map edit to update a WMA, you found an area that's marked incorrectly. If you tap on that area on your map, one of the buttons on the bottom of the screen, if you scroll over, should be report an error. And if you tap that, that would be the best way to communicate that specific issue to us. And you'll see the screen that Jack just pulled up. So
yeah,
that would be
especially
awesome.
if we're showing it as public and it isn't, which is rare but has happened, definitely let us know. That's important for us to get corrected. Well, with that, Jeff, I'm going to post the giveaway link one more time for everybody. We're a bit over an hour here. Apologies to everybody that we weren't able to get to all of the questions today. Hopefully we answered most people's. If you do have other questions, again, help@onxmaps.com is our email. If you would prefer to call, it's 406-540-1600. You can give us a call that way. That's our customer support team. They're fantastic. They have at least email support during the hunting season, 7 days a week. Phone service is more of a Monday through Friday type of deal. But let us know, and then do check out our future masterclasses. If you just Google onX Hunt Masterclasses, you should get pulled up to the page. We are kind of slowing down a little bit for November. A lot of us are going to be out, hunting. So we are slowing them down a touch, but we will have an onX Hunt 101 coming in late November. We just did one last week. There was a couple questions there where people were mentioning just wanting a tutorial. The 101 we did last week was almost 2 hours. Myself and Connor from customer support talked through the app. So there's a lot of information in those. That's on our onX Hunt YouTube channel. So if you just search onX Hunt in YouTube, you'll be able to find our master classes there. That's where all the old ones go. And then we do those 101s on a pretty much a monthly basis. We do these office hours. We are taking a bit of a break in November, just tough to schedule when I'm going to be sitting in a tree stand in northern Minnesota without any service, but we will pick them back up once things kind of slow down. Jay asked to repeat the phone number one more time. It's 406-540-1600. You can also, I believe it still shows up if you Google onX Hunt phone number. We should pop up there for you. All right, and with that, thanks again, everybody. Jeff, thanks for joining, and we'll catch everybody on the next
Absolutely.
one.